Trying to do all some, sorry, Mark, but trying to do some of those things legally. I want to come back to the issue of the tariff, which is very key here, and it affects loads and loads of Nigerians. And the thing is, for instance, by the time we get all of those prepaid meters, we'll come back to the metering system, which we didn't get from the minister or when he spoke to journalists. It has to do with some big spenders or consumers, big consumers, who consume a lot of energy, a lot of power. You talked about some couple of homes where we have different appliances, or we talk about big consumers, maybe a construction firm, manufacturing firm, or big offices. Is there a workable tariff system that also shows the more you consume, the lesser your tariff is for you?
There isn't that in place in the real sense of it. Ideally, the structuring of tariff should take into consideration the peak period, off-peak period, the season, the level of consumption, location, frequency of power supplies to the area, a whole lot of visuals.
So these are also conditions.
These are part of what the making of the tariff structure for a particular area. That is why we cannot even talk strictly of a regulated tariff. We talk of a deregulated tariff structure.
Are we really?
Disaggregated tariff structure. For during the day, I pay more. And the night when big players, big manufacturing companies are shut down, they pay slightly less. During the festive period when everybody will be home, I pay more. Off peak, during peak, and no, there should be a kind of disaggregated tariff structure that reflects the level and pattern of consumption per time. That is really what it's mathematical. For this period, when we are in the dry season, the hydros are down, the gas problem is there. Of course, that's even another big major problem that it says the minister mentioned, the gas problem. I will have you know that the average power production in Nigeria is about 20,000 megawatts, out of which we only have about 4,000 maximum.
So we produce, but we cannot evacuate.
The problem of evacuation has always been there. For instance, Lagos State government generates about, let's say about 29 megawatts of electricity, which is huge. And the need is about 13 to service the government areas and the rest. And the problem is because I interacted with them. They couldn't sell to off-takers. Why? Because it costs slightly higher than the current tariff to generate for Lagos State. So for them to sell, they will have to sell at a commercially reasonable prices, which is higher than the regulated tariff structure. Then there are willing buyers who will say, okay, I have a company that needs it. Please, I want to buy. The DISCO says, no, you can't sell to them. They are my customers. Area covered by the national grid, which is still a major problem.
I was just going to come to that, because it would seem that the minister spoke to certain things that, for instance, he spoke about gas, tariffs, and, these are things that we've heard over and over again. But there's things now, there are solutions now that people are beginning to say, can we look at these other options? One of the things he's always proposed is embedded generation.
Yes.
He didn't speak to that.
Yeah.
We're still looking at maintaining what we have. Can we really get power? Is it going to be sustainable on the long run?
Thank you very much, Makwe. You see, you mentioned a very important point. Embedded power generation, captive power generation, decentralized power generation. The grid structure is problematic. The idea of a national grid makes sense if things work. But things are not working in Nigeria due to nobody's fault. One, even for the kind of refineries in the oil and gas sector, the world is backing up from these huge mongoose refineries to modular refineries. The world is backing up from centralized federated grid structure to embedded. Embedded is this kind of small-scale transmission built around areas And people talk about wastage. They say, no, they can mop up the excesses and put on the national grid. So the government, well, I'm sure is part of the law because there's a regulation for embedded power generation. I'm sure the new administration, under the leadership of Mr. Raji Fashola, will look into strengthening or stimulating interest in embedded power generation.
Do you think this is about not scaring the big players? Because whether or not we like it, it would seem that we just recently, in quote, privatized, and these people must be able to make the monies that they've spent investing.
Yeah, you got it. Say, where we must say the truth. The fact is, if you read the agreement signed with those new entities, the discos, they have protective clauses in there that allows them to play for a certain number of years to be able to make reasonable amount of money to recoup their investment with yield. So if the sector is totally thrown open, that's why we're not getting to the final stage yet, which is a really privatized, liberalized regime that says free entry, free exit. We're not getting to that level.
So we're
yet.
not fully deregulated as it were.
We are still at the level of, let me say, structured deregulation. Structured deregulation. Okay, we are deregulating. Okay, we deregulate from point A to point B. Point C, we can't get there now. Maybe 2 years, 3 years. These guys need to make money. We don't want to scare them. We don't want them to lose their money. Which to me is problematic because they sign on certain deals. That's one. They will need to, of course, go by the terms of the agreement, which I know of. They have certain protective clauses. We call it antitrust, anti-competition clauses in there. They can. I'm sure it's even unlikely that they're going to bring in more discos at this stage. So it's at the level.
I'm just wondering, though, sorry to interrupt your thoughts, but can we fully deregulate a sector as sensitive as power? Can we really let the forces of demand and supply dictate what the price will be?
Why not? Why not?
You don't think that consumers will be at the mercy of the providers?
They say consumers will definitely not be at the mercy of the providers because, businessmen will always go where they're going to make money. Look at what happened in telecoms. Nobody will have thought it to happen. It's happening. And it's getting better.
Well, people have always differentiated telecoms from power in the sense that the infrastructure that you need, you can't replicate that over and over again, can you?
See, power is dynamic. The world is moving faster than the pace at which Nigeria is moving. Nobody talks of grid structure anymore in the strange sense of it. People are rolling out solar panels, solar panel roofs, a whole lot of technologies out there. People are deploying wind turbines to generate power.
You know what I'm thinking?
Biomass.
Now we're talking about deregulation in the sector. What other things that we should be thinking about now very quickly is to kick in the argument of having prepaid meters or proper metering system. If we have a deregulated sector or in our power sector or system in our power sector, do you think that the issue of giving everyone prepaid meter, for instance, I'm a customer who lives in maybe the catchment area of Disco A. I can as well say I don't like the kind of service my disco is giving to me, or my disco has refused to give me a prepaid meter. I'm getting estimated billings for this number of months or years. I should be able to go to Disco B and get that meter and get served.
That should be the destination. Just like we have in the telecoms, I always refer to telecoms. You should be able to consume or patronize several of the discos.
There must be choice.
There must be choice. In a situation in which even those who generate power through captive, like Lagos and the rest, cannot even sell to a willing off-taker who needs power to run his own business, cannot even buy from somebody who has power generated in excess because of the so-called disco region. My area, my market, doesn't make sense. should be able to put in your card and switch meters. It becomes something of a market force that Disco A puts its prepaid meter there. As you lay the foundation of the building, Disco B comes to market. Oh, we have a better tariff, put his own meter there, even give you a kind of tariff, certain amount of megawatts just to test run. You look at the frequency of consumption. You now prefer, let me try Disco A, Disco B, Disco C. Oh, Disco A is having problem. Let me switch to Disco
because
C.
It still is, because Dr. Oke, it still doesn't look like it's business that we're doing with the discos. You have seen complaints from individuals and even communities about having these estimated billings or having one problem or the other that needs to be fixed by the same discos, and communities still undertake some of these, problems or projects. If we truly want a deregulated system, and we know the problems that we're trying to get ourselves out of when it comes to power, what is so difficult in us looking at these laws and that you would want to, at best, call them setbacks?
Yes, I totally agree with you. One is nobody will, in good conscience, tell Nigerians that there are no meters to be installed. I entered the warehouse of a meter manufacturer, MOMAS, to be precise. I was close to tears what I saw. The sophistication of the technologies with which those meters are produced. You can even recharge through your phone, load megawatts on your phone. The moment you get the alert, your lights
comes on.
That's the kind of sophistication of the metering system they have in there. And their line follow there. Thousands of meters. And this goes to come and tell you, oh, no meters. The meters being manufactured at home are dysfunctional. As you bring, let's see those dysfunctional meters. At least if they are not good, they will have been returned to the manufacturer. Either they replace it or they give them another one. Nobody has come forward to do that. And a lot of homes are still unmetered.
Are there some
and they
people
still
playing
get
games?
bills.